Alright guys, give me 1 minute. Alright, we have the microphone ready and we are good to go. Well, first and foremost, welcome everybody. Welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is Thursday, August 10th, 2023. It is 9:09 p.m. here in New York. Welcome to New York. We are once again reporting live from 42nd Street and 12th Avenue. We are right next to the Intrepid Museum, and you have a gorgeous view of New York City's Hudson Yards. Now, today was a very notable day. I think I don't even need to give it an introduction. I think all of you know what we're going to be talking about tonight, and that is inflation. So in the United States, the Bureau of Labor Statistics did release the CPI numbers, right, the Consumer Price Index, and it pretty much came in line with consensus estimates. Now, we're going to go through line item by line item and break down each individual specific category of inflation. That includes food at home, energy, electricity, apparel, medical care and commodities, shelter costs, education and communication, food away from home, gasoline, natural gas, new vehicles, and used vehicles. Now, if you want to follow along with us tonight on the stream, all you have to do is type !CPI in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. You know, I'll do you one better. Since I have the computer up, I might as well just drop it in the chat, just so there's no confusion. It's a little bit wet outside today, too. It's raining like crazy almost all day in the city. It actually just stopped. Right as I came outside to do the live stream, it stopped. Thank God. Now, if you click the link that I put in the chat, if you scroll down about maybe a quarter of the way down the page, you're going to see something that says Table A, okay? And this is percent changes in CPI for all urban consumers, and it's a U.S. city average. Now, you'll notice something pretty interesting. You'll see a seasonally adjusted changes from the preceding month going all the way back to January of 2023, so the beginning of the year, right? Now, notice exactly what we're seeing, and this is what we've been talking about almost to the point of ad nauseum on the live stream, is that there is a few specific categories that are really, really becoming very, very sticky and ingrained in inflation. So, number one, if you look at the table, if everybody wants to scroll down to Table A, look at food prices. They were up in July of 2023, 0.2% month over month. And on year-over-year basis, food was up about 4.9%. So think about that. So food, all items, up 4.9% year-over-year. If you scroll down to energy, it was up 0.1% month over month. But as to be expected on a year-over-year basis, energy prices were actually down about 12.5% year over year, because just go back and look where crude oil futures were trading at this time last year. But I think the most important and most critical that we need to pay attention to is at the bottom of the chart, the bottom of Table A, that is shelter costs. Now, listen to how crazy this is, okay? Shelter costs were by far the largest contributor of the monthly increase, accounting for over 90% of the increase in CPI. On a month-over-month basis, shelter was up 0.4%, and on a year-over-year basis, shelter costs were up 7.7%. That is crazy. But I do have some good news, and it's good to do a comparative analysis here. And that's why if you go back to the first link I sent you, and you just essentially exit out everything except shelter costs, notice the trajectory and notice the trend we're seeing in shelter. I'll give you an example. March of 2023. It seems as if shelter in the United States peaked. March of 2023, shelter came in at 8.2%. If you go to April, 8.1%. May's reading was 8%. June's reading was 7.8%. And now July is 7.7%. So even though shelter costs are still elevated, we're starting to see some deceleration here. I'll actually show you what it looks like visually for those of you who can't access, because I've gotten a lot of feedback and I do appreciate that. Some of you, depending on what operating system, or if you're watching on TV, you can't see exactly what we're looking at. But this is a visual, okay, of just shelter costs alone. And as you see, it looks like we hit a top right here in March at 8.2%, and now we're rolling over a little bit. If you go over to all items, look at that. It is just an absolute free fall in CPI. So the headline number has come down substantially. The only thing really that is keeping this whole CPI from falling back to the 2% target, which the Federal Reserve wants it to go, is really shelter costs. So is this the start of a massive deceleration or a massive fall in the price of real estate, in the price of rents? I don't know. We'll talk about it. Now, speaking of shelter costs, what I think is appropriate to do now is check interest rates as it relates to the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Hold on, let me load. I'm using my hotspot, so the internet is a little bit iffy. All right, we'll go average 30-year fixed. So according to bankrate.com, as of today, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage in the United States is 7.40%, almost 7.5%. That is very expensive money. Okay, if money costs you 7.5% to buy a house, I think we're going to continue to see some deceleration in sales volumes. Now, that is up 8 basis points over the last week. So you sort of have this magic elixir, and this is why it's very important to look at this data and look at it from a historical perspective and look at the trajectory of the trends, right? Interest rates are going up. 30-year fixed rate mortgage continues to have that upward pressure on the yield, and shelter costs are just starting to roll over. But interesting piece of data coming out of New York City. Breaking news on the island of Manhattan today, my friends. Big update. Manhattan rental prices hit a fresh new all-time record high for the month of July. In July, the average rent on the island of Manhattan is a whopping $5,987. You heard that right. $5,987 was the average rental price in July. If you want to go to median rent, it was $4,401. Now, if you want to segment Manhattan by location, the Upper West Side of Manhattan takes the cake out of each individual category, coming in at a median rental $4,300. Upper Manhattan, you can get a median rental at $2,751. Crazy. All right, guys, I think that was a pretty good intro. I think I prefaced the stream pretty well. Give me a minute. I'm going to close up the laptop. We're going to head to Central Park tonight, and then I'll say hello to everybody in the chat, and we'll get started. Allow me one moment. All right. Clip the microphone back on. Okay, I want to welcome everybody to Walks in Wall Street. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We are right on the beautiful Hudson River. It just stopped raining, which is fantastic. It's actually a really nice night. The wind died down. We have some beautiful boats coming in the harbor here. But let's say hello to everybody. I see Jafet Perez, British Gray from Tampa, Florida is here. Shane Rowland says hello, Tom. Everything in Miami is here. Keith Walker, D. Michael, Thanks for joining. Kitty in the City is here. Gigi NYC, Richard Vogel, CA2SD, Tiffany Allen, Big Task at Hand, Gary Carpenter. Lance is here, says hello everybody. Joining in from Brooklyn, New York. Always good to see you. My good friend Sabrina Fair is here. MBA Elias says hello Tom, hope you had a good day. I did. Very busy day. Not only a very busy day at work, but very busy day on Wall Street, in the markets, right, and in the economy. Big inflation numbers coming out. Now, the market had an interesting reaction. It was a very, very volatile day. We had huge swings in the S&P 500, but we closed at the dead low of the day. Low of the day, which is not a good sign, you know, as we work through the summer doldrums here. Dale is here, says hello from Grand Prairie, Texas. Good to see everybody from Texas. Now this is a really cool bike path. This is called the Hudson River Bike Path. And this will actually take you all the way down to the World Trade Center. So if you're a tourist here or you're just looking to move to New York and you're looking for some fun free activities to do, you could either get a city bike, you could rent a bike, or you could buy your own and take this all the way down to the World Trade Center. It's one of my favorite things to do in Manhattan. And I actually used to take my bike all the way from 59th Street, Columbus Circle, on the bike path, all the way down to Wall Street. Now, it's a really fun, fantastic, and amazing ride to do in the spring and in the summer. But I have to warn you, if you do it, or if you choose to do it in the winter, you really need to dress warm because it gets very, very windy here. Really crazy. Hey, Austin City Limits says, Tom, I didn't catch the final CPI numbers today. Well, if you type !CPI in the chat, it'll actually drop the link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, where not only you could see the headline number, but you could see the core CPI number and all of the individualized categories as well. But it pretty much came in line with expectations, right? Inflation bumped up a little bit, you know, from its trajectory. Last month, the headline year-over-year number came in at 3% even, I believe. This time we came in at 3.2%, right? So inflation seems to be hovering right around 3%. Now, here's the question I have for all of you as we are heading back into Midtown Manhattan. You can see the Times Square, Bryant Park area in the distance. So here's my question. My question is, the Federal Reserve has been very, very clear that in order for them to start a new easing cycle or to even think about rate cuts, they want to see inflation back down to that 2% target. So the question is 3% inflation the new normal? Do we think it's possible for CPI to get back down to that 2% target, or do we think we're just going to have a new normal of 3%, 3.5% inflation from here on out? That's what a lot of pundits are saying. Hey, Maria's here, says hello Tom, how are you? I'm doing very well. It was just raining like crazy in the city. It just stopped right as we started streaming, so that's good. At least we won't be soaking wet tonight. Sabrina Fair, hopefully you're well. Hopefully we can get you down to South Florida, Miami pretty soon. Dr. Longiz is here, thanks for joining us. Brian Forrest, Ryan, welcome. John, good to see you. Mike, what's up? Michael says, once a week I grab a bike from Penn Station and circle Central Park and then do a run along the Hudson. That's fantastic, man. That's probably one of the best running routes going. Justin S. Says, does the Federal Reserve consider it a big enough difference between 2 and 3%? Well, Mary Daly, who I think is the San Francisco Fed president, I think, it's been a long day, she actually came out here today and said specifically that they're just not going to cut anytime soon. That was one of the big breaking headlines. So yeah, I think they're pretty serious about it. And one of the mistakes I think economists have made so far is they're trying to, play word salad with the Federal Reserve. I think you should just take them at face value, right? If they say they want inflation back down to that 2% target before they even think about cutting, well, then they probably mean it. I mean, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, in my opinion, has been very clear and concise with his messaging. Now, a lot of people don't like the guy and don't like the Fed, which I totally understand and appreciate, and I get that. But he's been pretty clear. He's been pretty clear in his messaging, for sure. Hawaii is here. Welcome. Sending you well wishes. I couldn't believe what's going on or what happened with the wildfires or the brush fires in Hawaii. I was watching more videos on Twitter today about it. It was incredible, insane. Now, I saw a story, I'm not sure if you guys saw this. I saw an interesting story where I guess the sort of the safety feature on the iPhone or iOS saved many, many people that were trapped in cars in Hawaii to sort of direct the fire departments to their locations. And I was even seeing stories of people jumping in the water, right? They were jumping in the ocean just it was so hot on the mainland. It was really almost an unbelievable sight to see. Hey, thank you so much from Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for your very kind donation. I've actually been working with some family offices in Saudi Arabia. So hopefully I'll get to go to Saudi Arabia sometime. I think that would be awesome. But thank you for your donation. Thank you for watching. All of our friends from Saudi Arabia. Hey, Brad's Brain says, let's face the facts. The Fed is waiting for me to lock in a 30-year mortgage before they begin to ease. Yeah, that's hilarious. Brad, we were just talking about that during the intro, that the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is now at 7.40%, just under 7.5%. That's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy difference. Just do the math, right? Let's say if somebody wanted to buy a $400,000 home back in 2021, you put 20% down, you mortgage out the rest. Just calculate the payment difference. It's almost double. It's actually more than double now. So that has to have some ramifications, and I think that's going to bring shelter costs down, in my opinion. Hey, Bill Williams is here. Hey, Bill. This is greetings from Mason, Ohio. Good to see everybody from Ohio. Thanks for joining us. Bobby A says, what's going on in the auto market? Well, I'm not too sure. But that was actually one of the categories within CPI that actually came down. I'm sure everybody remembers during the pandemic and even 2021 into 2022, there was like a mania euphoria in used vehicle sales, especially at auction. Some people were able to sell their used cars for exactly what they paid for it brand new. It was just a weird dichotomy what was going on. And that just goes to show you, if you literally turn the world off for a year, that has severe supply chain ramifications. So hopefully things are normalizing, I should say. Now, I did read an interesting statistic about the auto market, and I don't own a car, right? So I don't really follow this as closely as I should. So I guess I'll ask you guys this question. The average auto payment now, the average car payment in the United States is $1,000. Four-figure car payment? That's crazy. Is anybody here in the chat? You see a pretty nice view of the Hudson Yards here. Is anybody here in the chat in the market for a new vehicle, a used vehicle? And if so, if you're financing that, what are some of the interest rates that you've been quoted? Because that's kind of crazy. Auto payments of $1,000? That's nuts. Hey, Chan is here. Thank you so much. Edward Adams says, I refinanced 10 years ago to lower my payment So I'm locked in at 4%. I'm super lucky. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing that's holding back shelter costs from really, really coming down and accelerating, is I think over 85% of Americans who have a mortgage outstanding, the debt costs, I believe, under 4%, 4% and under. So even though a lot of people have built up significant equity in their properties, why would they sell when they would just have to go back into this crazy market? And if they can't pay for the house in cash, their monthly payment's probably going to double, if not triple, because the debt is almost double, if not triple. Hey, Tracy says we have 2 car payments at 4%, I think. That's good. Dr. Longus says, Tom, I just bought a new car at 6.5%. Keith says, Tom, I've been looking, but prices and interest rates are absolutely ridiculous. So Keith, what are you looking for specifically, if you don't mind us asking? Are you looking to buy new, or are you looking to, buy an EV? You're looking to buy Tesla, maybe? All right, this is 10th Avenue and 42nd Street. We're going to cross the street, but we got to wait at the traffic light first. Hey, Teresa Diaz, thank you for joining us all the way from California. DA says, hey Tom, I spent $800 today. I had some repairs to do on my pickup truck. DA, there was an interesting statistic that people are choosing to keep their vehicles for longer, and that's why some of the auto parts store stocks have been performing really well. Because as the average age of the vehicle on the road ages, and studies show that consumers are not really purchasing new vehicles, they're trying to elongate the life of their existing car, well, that means they're going to need to spend more money for repairs, more money for parts. And that's another thing that's been going up. Not only the cost of the parts, right, but the cost of the service is probably going up as well, right? And I'm sure they bill by the hour. That's all skilled labor that we are in short supply of, unfortunately. Hey, the Wizard is here. Brick Stonewall, good to see you. Keith says, I'm looking now for new hybrids. Ian says, what is the reason why commercial real estate is dead? I see so many vacancies. Well, we talked about that a lot last night, but I think it is a good question. I think we'll just quickly summarize. Now, commercial real estate it's a very big category, right? If you want to talk about commercial office specifically, you're correct. Vacancy is very, very high in the city, particularly in Lower Manhattan. Lower Manhattan has the highest office vacancy anywhere in the city at over 25%. Now, the problem is we've been seeing a very big flight to quality. So a lot of the Class B and C office towers in the city that were built in the 80s that are a little bit grungy, dim, very low ceiling heights, a lot of companies are moving out of those particular buildings and moving in to Class A prime office space, like the Hudson Yards, like 425 Park Avenue that I took you guys past the other day, like One Vanderbilt, and the like. Now, an interesting thing, and we've heard this on Amazon's earnings report, we've heard this on Meta's earnings report, companies are choosing to go towards quality, but actually downgrade in terms of square footage. Because hybrid work environment is still in play. So if your employees are only coming to the office 2 to 3 days out of the week, well, you don't need all that much space. Hey, Brad's Brain says never buy a new car. That's my opinion. I like a year or so old, very low mileage, but not brand new. You know, I'm not a car guy, so I'm probably the worst person to ask about this. But is this true or is this a myth for all of those car guys and girls in the chat? Because it seems, I think it's true, but I don't know. So here's the potential myth. Is it true that if you buy a new vehicle, okay, at 0 miles, like 100 miles, right, and you drive it off the lot, it automatically loses 10% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot? Is that true or is that a myth? I'm not a car guy. I've never bought a car. I don't have a car. Hey, Ben Cunningham, what's up? Says I buy cars right off the leases, well maintained, and they're already made their money, so you could talk them down. Very interesting. Zabatatis is mostly true. Mr. W says, oh yeah. NBA Elias is true, Tom. A car is the worst investment you could make. Now, here's my only expertise in the car market. When I was a teenager, one of my first jobs in Manhattan, actually, it was on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I used to work in a parking garage. I worked for a rental car company called Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. This was when I was like 19, 20 years old. And the company actually had a used vehicle sales division. I'm not sure if many of you know this, but not only does Enterprise, Hertz, and all the other, car rental companies, not only do they rent cars, but they also sell the cars that they rent after a certain amount of time. And you can get up on that. Let me tell you something from experience, okay? In my opinion, I wouldn't buy one of those cars, okay? I used to see the most wild stuff, and I'm talking like ridiculous wild stuff that people do when they rent cars, okay? I worked at a car rental place in New York City, and I could tell you with certainty the stuff that I've seen would absolutely blow your mind. So I don't know how much of a good idea it is to buy a used Hertz or Enterprise Rent-A-Car car. Who knows? Somebody in the chat says, buy a used car with less than 20,000 miles on it, change the oil, and then you're good. Dave D says they rent cars that depreciate the cars off and sell off the cars. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're rich and you could afford it, yeah, buy it brand new. But as long as the car will run and it's good, I guess I don't see any issue with buying it used. Thankfully, living in a big city like New York, I think it would be a big inconvenience to have a car. But oh, this is a really cool shot here. Look at this. This reminds me of like very old, rustic, 1995 New York City, doesn't it? This shot right here is like you're walking in 1995. Hey, Sunshine After Rain says I bought my car in 2018 with 12 miles, and I've only put 40,000 miles on it. Whoa, that's not bad. DA says, Tom, mechanics charged me $105 an hour for labor. You guys want to know something crazy about labor? So DA says the labor costs $105 an hour for them to fix the car. Well, I'm working on a big deal, and it's an apartment. It's about a $3 million listing. It's going to be my listing, so I've landed that. I think that's a pretty big deal, landing a $3 million listing. But I needed to get it staged. And does anybody want to guess, okay? Does anybody want to guess the hourly rate for the stagers to come and just hang the artwork, okay? So not the furniture, forget about the furniture, just the rate to hang the artwork. Does anybody want to take a crack at that? I mean, I think you guys are going to be shocked. And, someone says 600, you guys are shooting high, man. NBA Elias is $90 an hour. Shatoya Davis is $450, $300. You guys are shooting a little high, but I appreciate that. $175 an hour. Now, granted, they do a great job, and the pieces that we were hanging were very expensive. So you couldn't really do it yourself, right? And then you have to have insurance, and the owner of the property. It's not like you could just hang it yourself. But yeah, right around, and I called so many places, and I also knew some people who did it, but they weren't eligible to do it in this particular building where I have the listing because of the specific insurance requirement. But yeah, it's about $150 to $175 an hour. That's what they charge just to hang the artwork. So, kind of crazy. But they did do a fantastic job. So I'm not complaining. I think they deserve every dime that I paid them. But what the heck? That is crazy. So if anybody's interested in a cool business idea, maybe you and your friends or somebody could move to New York City and cold call a bunch of new developments and say, hey, we'll hang all of your artwork and do a fantastic job for $75 an hour. You'll probably make, $150, maybe a little more a year doing that. All right. Okay, everybody, we are now on the corner of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street. We are right outside of the beautiful Port Authority bus terminal. Maybe not so beautiful, but look, I'm optimistic because there's a lot of tourists out. It seems like people are coming back to New York, right? Usually the summer is very slow for the city because a lot of people are out in Connecticut, they're out on Long Island, they're in New Jersey, they're in upstate New York. But the past couple days on the live stream, especially in Midtown, the city's actually been pretty packed, which is great. Now, all of these tourists, Lifted CS has lived off of 42nd Street last year. Can't say I missed the congestion. Oh my God, man. I don't know how you did that, living right off of here. It wouldn't be my first suggestion to a client to live right off of 42nd Street. Way too busy, way too crowded, and a little bit too dirty for my liking, just to be transparent there. But, speaking of tourism, right, speaking of tourists, when people come and visit the city, they have to go out and eat. They have to spend money. And one of our conversations yesterday that was sort of a precursor to the CPI report was just how expensive it is now to go out and eat at a restaurant in New York City or in any major city. So check this out. We have some interesting data coming out of the CPI report for food away from home. So this is food that you buy at restaurants, quick service restaurants and things like that. Food away from home is up 3.6% year over year. Let that sink in for a moment. 3.6% year over year increase is the cost that you're burdened with just on a 12-month rolling average if you want to eat out at a restaurant. Now, I would argue, okay, because you got to understand the CPI is a basket of cities, right, that are polled. So if the national average of food away from home is 3.6% year over year increase, I would argue that New York City is closer to maybe 6%. I don't know, any thoughts there? Because obviously inflation is also very localized. So from your perspective, anybody who's watching the live stream, maybe you're in Dallas, maybe you're in San Francisco, maybe you're in, LA, would you say that the cost of eating out has gone up 3.6% year over year, or do you think it went up even higher in your neck of the woods? Let us know in the comments. I think it'll be cool to get some data on that. Yeah, Joel PM says that seems low in my opinion, doesn't it? I mean, the 3.6% year over year increase for food away from home, especially in New York, it seems kind of low. I mean, I would only hope and pray that it went up only that much. Zabatatas is definitely higher in New York City. Fat Pizzas is absolutely not. It definitely went up at least 8 to 10%. I think that's probably bang on for a city like New York. Hey, Marcy, what's up? This is probably higher than that for sure. Mr. G says Florida, too high, too fast of an increase. Particularly in South Florida, right? Places like Miami Beach, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale. The prices probably went up even higher than New York. Although whenever I am in Miami, things are usually about a couple bucks cheaper. If you go to like Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, maybe a Chipotle, it's usually like a couple dollars cheaper. Cooking, what's up? This is Tom. Coffee shops have gone up more than 6% here in Seattle. That's good data. Brian Reed says went up about 8% in San Antonio, Texas. Now that I believe, you know, San Antonio has been one of the hottest real estate markets because that was one of the markets that everybody fled to during the coronavirus. Hey, Bobo Buys, thank you so much for your generous $2 donation. This is Tom. I love this channel. It's up about 5 to 8% in Atlanta, Georgia. Love Atlanta, great town. I wish I could spend more time in Atlanta. I really, really like that place. But thank you so much for your generous donation. I'm trying to brave Times Square for you guys. It is Thursday. Very, very seldom do we walk through Times Square, so I thought it'd be appropriate just to check it out, you know, on CPI Thursday. I think this is good market data for consumer sentiment, consumer spending, things like that. NBA Elias's cost of eating out plus the tip makes it even worse. Joel PM saw an $18 burger at a Portland food truck last weekend. Well, let me tell you something. If you go into, I'm sure you guys have heard of Five Guys, right? I like Five Guys better than Shake Shack, in my opinion. You know, I would actually want to see this. I'm a big fan of Aladdin. I loved the movie with Will Smith, the Aladdin remake with Will Smith. I actually really enjoyed that movie. So I would definitely want to see this show. I don't even know if they're still going on. See, after COVID, it's so horrible because I don't take advantage of anything New York City has to offer, really. I don't go to the sports games. I don't go to the Broadway shows. I really should probably start doing that. Anyway, the Wizards says Middle Tennessee is up 10%. It's definitely not good. Yeah, I mean, those are all of the states that people really flock to. So I'm definitely not surprised. But yeah, Five Guys, if you walk into Five Guys, okay, and you get a burger, fries, and a shake, that's $35, 30 bucks in Manhattan. Easy for one person. You're walking out of there paying 30 bucks. Which to me, that's wild. To me, that is absolutely wild. All right, let's cross here, and then I'll take you guys to Bryant Park, because I think Bryant Park will be very, very beautiful tonight. But I think we got caught at the light. We'll just take a look at this Tesla while we're waiting. Hey, Cindy Foley, what's up? Spencer, thank you for joining us. Hey, marketing videography is a lot more than that, 20% plus. Deborah says, yes, the shows are still up and running. Aladdin is still running. If the marquee it's up, it's usually running. I'd like to go see a show for sure. Cynthia says, Tom, why don't you ever stop and go to the sports games, things like that? You know, you sort of just get kind of caught up in the rat race, if you will. I guess I shouldn't describe it as rat race. It's kind of like that's a negative term. I take that back. But it's just you get very busy. You're working and, you know, I get off of work at like 8 o'clock and then I do the stream at 8:30. I don't really have any time to really go anywhere. I would love to see a Yankee game, though. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but it's always fun to take a trip to the Bronx and go to Yankee Stadium. I've enjoyed that as a kid. However, I will say this. What I would enjoy above anything else is to see an Inter Miami game, now that Leo Messi is a part of Inter Miami, play the New York Red Bulls. That would be insane. Now, speaking of Inter Miami, if we want to sort of revert it back to finance and Wall Street talk, there was a major private equity firm that I guess allegedly invested close to $1 billion, or maybe 500 million, I forget exactly what it was, to build Inter Miami a brand new stadium. Did anybody see that? I saw that across Bloomberg today. I'm wondering if anybody else saw the same thing. I think that's definitely a good idea. And the reason why I think that's a good idea is because the stadium that they play at now, it's literally on bleachers. Have you guys seen it? It's like the weirdest thing. You have the best athlete and the highest paid athlete in the entire world, and he's playing it like a little... The stadium is not very spectacular, let's just say that. Let's just say that. All right, let's head towards Bank of America Tower. So this is Bank of America Tower. This is Brian Moynihan's company. It is right next to Salesforce Tower, which is Mark Benioff's company. Ticker symbol CRM. Elijah B., welcome. Now that is the ball that they drop on New Year's Eve. So if you've ever watched it on, the news, it's actually right where they do it, right there at 1 Times Square. Hey, Pete144 to stay dry. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Just stopped raining about, an hour ago, which is good. NBA Elias says, Tom, at what point does the balance tip and NYC rents begin to moderate? Rents can't keep going up forever like this. It was shocking today. I think that's appropriate to talk about, and so we'll talk about that right now. And I'll share some of my perspectives of what I'm seeing in the marketplace. So we had a little bit of breaking news come out today for New York City, specifically the island of Manhattan, which we're standing on right now. New York City rents on the island of Manhattan just hit a brand new all-time record high. Average rent on the island of Manhattan hit a record high of $5,987 a month. Now think about that for a moment, okay? So average rents in Manhattan, okay, this doesn't include the boroughs, this is just Manhattan, $5,987 a month. Now, I usually don't like talking about the average, and I'll tell you why. New York City is a very, very interesting real estate market, because in Manhattan, okay, you could be on 57th Street, which is just right up here, on Billionaires Row, and you could pay $50,000 to $80,000 a month in rent at some of those absolutely beautiful and gorgeous apartments. However, on the same little island, you could be in Washington Heights and Hamilton Heights and pay $2,500 a month in rent. So the average really skews the data to the point where it's almost just not even worth looking at. But the news outlets and the media outlets just absolutely run with that. So what I like to do is actually look at the median rental data, which I think is a little bit more accurate for that reason specifically. So the median rent in Manhattan is $4,404, okay? So the average rent is almost $6,000 a month. The median is $4,404 a month. Brand new all-time record highs. Kind of crazy. Look at this. This is a beautiful shot of the Empire State Building. This is probably one of my favorite color schemes here. It's this solid, sort of cool blue with the clouds going through it. That's absolutely gorgeous. And look at that, it actually matches Salesforce Tower, which is fantastic. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think the rent is too high? Do you think the rent is crazy? Do you guys think the rent is going to continue to go up? Or do you think we're going to get some softening here in the real estate market? Well, I'll give you my thoughts, but first I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. All right, one more shot of one of my favorite buildings, Bank of America Tower. Hey, look who it is. It's our good pal, Western Mass Dave. Dave, good to see you, my friend. I was looking alive for you in the chat. I didn't see you. Good to see you. DWG says it's a lot of Rolex watches. Yeah, it's like buying an entry-level Rolex every month. Hey, the Professor Nomad, what's up? Says, yeah, that's high, but it's only going to continue to rise. Interesting take. Maybe you're right. Terrence is here, says, hey, what's up? All right, so I'll give you my take. But I'll give you my take as we walk through Bryant Park, because I really love Bryant Park. Now, I want to sort of kill two birds with one stone here. So again, today was the big CPI data, okay? So type !CPI in the chat so you could follow along with the data, right? Now, shelter costs accounted for about 90% of the increase in CPI. That's absolutely crazy and it's ridiculous, and I think everybody understands that. But that's only one part of the story, because I think it's more important to look at the trajectory, okay? Looking at where we were to where we are now and projecting that forward. So what do I mean by that? Well, if everybody scrolls down, again, if you just type !CPI in the chat, and if you scroll down to Table A, okay? On Table A, you're going to see a bunch of different categories. I want you to scroll down all the way to where it says shelter. Now, on a month-over-month basis, shelter costs were up 0.4%, and on a year-over-year basis, shelter costs were up 7.7%. That's horrible and that's egregious, but that's only one part of the story. The second part of the story, as we're looking at the gorgeous One Vanderbilt Chrysler building and the Stephen Schwarzman building, New York Public Library, is that shelter costs in America very may well have topped in March of this year. So March, shelter costs came in at 8.3%, and for 4 consecutive months, we've actually had deceleration in that category. Not by much, but still deceleration nonetheless. So what I think, since real estate is illiquid, right? Think about liquidity. Stocks and equities, they're very liquid products, right? I could go on to my Charles Schwab account, Interactive Brokers, and I could market sell and blow out $2 million worth of stock, and it automatically executes because stocks are so liquid, especially if you're trading like mega cap tech stocks. But real estate is illiquid, well, relatively illiquid, right? And it's more of an emotional sale. So as interest rates have gone up, there is a significant lag in terms of the price of real estate. Now, I'm not saying this has to happen, but this is what usually happens. There's usually an inverse correlation between valuations of real estate and interest rates. Wow, look at this shot, everybody. This is an amazing shot of the Empire. So as of right now, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 7.4%, almost 7.5%. Okay, in 2021, it was 3%. So as interest rates go up, usually valuations go down, and I think that's going to start to happen. So we're just starting to see the trajectory of the shelter data start to roll over. Now, is that a guarantee that it's going to roll over? No. But do I think it probably will? Yeah, I think it'll probably normalize, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see, a 5%, maybe 4% reading by this time last year. It's only appropriate and it's only normal. There's two, I would say, really specific data points that I like to look at, and that is when the National Association of Realtors reports existing home sales, and when home builders report new home sales. And one of the things you'll notice, and this is why it's so important to model this in Excel, right? You should model the trajectory of the sales transactions in Excel, because you can sort of see it, right? It'll sort of snake up and down. And transaction volume or deal flow, right? Closed deals, closed transactions,
have plummeted significantly. And that is in direct correlation with rising rates. So what usually happens is, first, deal flow will contract. The amount of deals being done every month will become less and less and less. And then finally, in order for the market to become liquid again and get moving and deals trading, well, price has to come down to meet the demand of the buyers, right? So what we're seeing now in the real estate market, particularly in New York, is sort of like a stalemate, right? Because the cost of debt is very high, so money is expensive, and sellers have not yet come to terms with the fact of this new market environment. They're still thinking that, hey, my neighbor Sally sold her house for $100,000 over asking last year. I can do the same thing. Well, no, you can't, not so fast. Because Sally sold her house $100,000 over asking when interest rates were 3%. Interest rates are almost 8%. So that's sort of my narrative that I'm following. I think you're going to see some cooling in the housing market. I'm already seeing it in New York City. You're having some apartments sit on the market for longer than normal. And you're not getting multiple offers on properties anymore. Maybe 2 or 3 offers, but you're not really competing in these bidding wars, at least from what I'm seeing. But more importantly, what are you guys seeing? Do you think that that's a fair analysis? Do you agree? Do you disagree with that? Right? I would probably be more interested in people who disagree with that. But I don't know. What are you guys seeing in your market, in your neck of the woods? This is the gorgeous lawn at Bryant Park. It's one of my favorite spots in the city. Jay Lowell says, what type of people are buying a $3 million apartment? Do you meet actual buyers or agents of buyers? Yeah, I mean, all types of people buy $3 million apartments. That's sort of like, if you want to buy a studio apartment in Manhattan, the cheapest, right, if you want to be in a nice area, is probably going to be about $500,000. That's for a studio. If you want something nice, if you want a really, really nice, full floor, 2-bedroom, you're looking at $3 million, right around there, like brand new construction in a new development. $3 million, it's, maybe 1,500 square feet, brand new, 2020 construction. $3 million, 2.7. Yeah, that's about right in the city. That's Manhattan prices. Hey, Cynthia says, my cousin is looking for a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment on the Upper East Side. Cynthia, I got some crazy data for you. Now, if you guys want to see all of the data visually that we're talking about on the live stream, just go to my Twitter page. And we have to leave the park now because they're closing up. Here, I'll show you. So we just made it before they closed. They're putting up all the barricades. But if you want to see all the data that I post throughout the day, just go on Twitter and follow @WalksWallStreet. I post all of the data. And sort of going back to the rents for a moment, if you've noticed what we've been talking about specifically to Manhattan, I've been saying, and I've been pounding the table about this for, 3 or 4 months now. I think that Sutton Place in the Upper East Side is trading at a discount, or I know it's trading at a severe discount, as it relates to some of the more fashionable neighborhoods like Tribeca, the Upper West Side, Soho. So if you don't need all of the bells and whistles of the condominiums, you don't need the pools, you don't need, the workout spaces, the yoga studios, the fitness clubs, the restaurants, and if you just want a nice apartment and a nice place to live, well, there are some co-ops that are trading, I think, below market value. But you've got to understand you're not going to get any amenities. There's going to be no amenities. It's going to be very strict rules. It's probably going to be no pets. But if you're just looking for a nice, safe, solid place to live, you're going to get a discount in terms of price per square foot. So tell your cousin to take a look near Sutton Place. Okay, now to set the expectation, these are going to be older buildings. But I think that's where a lot of the discounts are happening right now. The bidding wars are still happening in the premium units, like 130 William. Olympia Dumbo, like the super prestigious, beautiful buildings, that is where there's a lot of competition right now. So that's what I would say. If you want to break it down by rent, the Upper West Side actually topped the list. Median rent in the Upper West Side, $4,300. The Upper East Side, you can rent a place for $3,812. So Upper West Side more expensive than the Upper East Side, surprisingly. Daniel says need the amenities. It's definitely becoming more popular for sure. Lifted CS's amenities are overrated in my opinion. Yeah, I think everybody's different. Like, I'm not a huge amenities guy, especially living in New York City when there's a gym on every corner. But some people want that convenience. Some people want that white glove service. So there's definitely enough buildings in Manhattan to provide that for sure. Yeah, Marcy says, I've noticed about Upper West Side being more expensive than the Upper East Side. I've been pounding the table about that for years. I actually really like the Upper West Side, and I would say I would prefer to live on the Upper West Side to the Upper East, in my opinion. But yeah, if you need help navigating that market, shoot me an email if you need additional assistance. Hey, Buy the Book is here. What's up? Thanks for joining us. Look at that. We're on the corner of East 42nd Street and 5th Avenue. You can see a piece of the Empire State Building with the American flags. I think that is probably the shot of the night. Looks gorgeous. Custom American fire trucks, welcome. Always a pleasure to see you. LA 0700, welcome. Felipe, thanks for joining us. Hey, Rachel Abreu from the 305 in Miami. Rachel, I may be flying to Miami Tuesday, but if I do, it's going to be insanity, the travel. I'm going to be flying into Miami Tuesday, spending 2 days there, flying to Tampa, and then driving to Sarasota, Florida. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted. I want to meet up. I mean, you and your husband have been super nice. I've met up with a ton of viewers in Miami from the stream, so I'd love to say hello. I'll probably be in Brickell maybe one night. Yeah, Ryan says subway ridership is getting better, 4 million a day for the first time since March of 2020. It kind of makes sense, right? I mean, just visually, doesn't it seem like there's more people on the sidewalk? Well, I'll rephrase that. There's absolutely more people on the sidewalk. There's been many people watching this stream since the pandemic, and we would walk literally in the middle of the street and there'd be nobody. So people are definitely coming back, which is good news. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually start these live streams every day at 8:30, right around 8:30, maybe 8:30, 8:45, and we'd love to have you here. We walk around the city, we talk about the financial markets, and pretty much anything. We just have a chat, have fun. It's a good way to relax after work. Oh, very cool. So somebody says, I bought in Midtown Manhattan. Oh, you bought in Midtown East a studio for $400,000 about a year ago. It has elevator, pets allowed, part-time doorman, and a roof deck. Whoa, very nice. 8-minute walk to work. It is definitely possible. Yeah, I mean, studio apartments, you know, 400, 500-ish. Definitely doable for a studio. How many square feet is that? Like 500? Something like that? Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. That's awesome, man. Congratulations on your purchase. That's fantastic. I bet you have a nice view from the roof deck too. Now this is One Vanderbilt. Now, I used to rent a studio apartment, I think I told you guys this, right at Central Park South. I was so lucky to be able to do it because this was during the height of the pandemic, like when everybody thought everybody was going to die, right? This was when nobody knew anything about the coronavirus and everybody was super scared. Everybody was running out of the city, and there was a mini flash crash in New York City real estate. So I was able to rent a studio apartment on Central Park South for right around $2,000. It was a steal, it was amazing, and it was honestly the best apartment I've ever lived in the city by far. The building was 106 Central Park South, and it was the only studio in the entire condo that had a Central Park view. It was fantastic. But yeah, definitely you cannot get those prices anymore, unfortunately. Definitely can't. All right, Pershing Square. You could think about Bill Ackman and his hedge fund at Pershing Square. LA says that is amazing. How much did it increase? I think they rented it for $4,200 when I moved out. Now, I had the option to renew the lease for only a $100 increase, but I didn't do it because I was too busy. I had changed jobs at the time, and I was spending most of my time in South Florida. Now, I love this view. This is such an iconic New York shot here. Right outside Grand Central Station with all the taxi cabs. This is such an iconic shot. It's fantastic. Look at that. Lillis has just saw a 2-bed, 2-bath at 418 Central Park West. For $500,000? No way. Not 2-bedroom, 2-bath. No way. I think maybe that's wrong. This is a really nice shot too. Look at that. I actually want to walk back to 6th Avenue. I want to walk up 6th tonight. We'll cross here for better views. All right, look at this. This is an awesome shot of the MetLife building as well as Grand Central Terminal. Hey, Jeremy's here. Says, how are you? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking, Jeremy. Hope you're well. Welcome to New York City's Grand Central Station, right here at Pershing Square. Now, the last thing I'll say about New York City real estate, because we've covered a lot tonight. We've definitely hammered in on that topic, which I think is appropriate, right? Because really the only sticky category of inflation is shelter costs. So I think it's appropriate to talk about it, and it impacts a lot of Americans. I would argue that the number one cost to the average everyday American is their rent or it's their mortgage. So it does matter, and it's important to talk about. But there was an interesting article with some data coming out of brokerage Douglas Elliman. And they said that instead of, people staying in hotels, particularly people who work maybe a month or 2 months out of the year in the city, hotel costs have been skyrocketing. You know, if you want to get a halfway decent hotel in Manhattan, you're talking, you know, $300 plus a night. If you want to stay at the Park Hyatt, if you want to stay at the Aman, I mean, you're looking at $1,000 a night plus. So what a lot of people are doing is actually buying studios. They're buying studio apartments for $450,000 to $600,000, and they're, according to the building's regulations, right, they're renting them out on a short-term rental basis, right, on sites like Airbnb and VRBO, and when they need them, they're just living in the studios. So there was some data of closed sales. So closed sales in New York City, studios are actually in very, very high demand for that pied-à-terre style, which is super interesting, particularly for international buyers, which I guess makes sense. You know, if you work at a big law firm or something like that, and you're spending 2 months out of the year in New York, and you're spending $500 a night on a hotel, or if you work at some big law firm and you're spending, you know, $1,000 a night to stay at the Park Hyatt, the numbers actually work then. Those numbers actually work. To buy a studio for $500,000, you know, rent it out for maybe $3,000 or more a month when you're not there, and then live in it for the 2 months. It's kind of crazy what the virus, if you will, has sort of created in real estate trends. It's totally decimated the commercial office space and the mall space, but some interesting pockets of residential, I mean, it's absolutely just made it go skyward. This is the Park Avenue Tavern. This Midtown East, 77 Park Avenue. Just look at that transition we just did, everybody. From 42nd Street, Grand Central Station, everything moving around, everything super loud, and just 2 blocks south, Midtown East, right off of Park Avenue. Very quiet, very beautiful, very quaint, and very seldom, by the way, do I actually take you guys and girls over here on the stream. Hey, DWG, this is the Hyatt, is nice though. Very quiet and it has everything. DWG, 100% correct. If anybody's visiting New York, okay, and you want to splurge a little bit, or maybe it's in your budget, maybe you're rich, that's fantastic. You gotta stay at the Park Hyatt, New York. Just take my advice and do it once. It is such a cool experience because in the Park Hyatt, well, I should say 157 was the original building on New York City's Billionaires Row, right? It was developed by Extel, Gary Burnett's company, and you have the opportunity, right, to stay at 157 because the residences at 157 have all the amenities of the Park Hyatt. So one side is the Park Hyatt, the other side is the residences. If you have the $1,000 and you want to take a weekend trip, I would highly, highly recommend the Park Hyatt. It's fantastic. Hey, NBA Elias, thank you so much for your very kind and generous donation. It says, thanks for covering the CPI and New York City rent news on the stream. Shelter costs affect all of us and our purchasing power. That it definitely does, man. So I appreciate your donation, appreciate your support, and I definitely agree. Now, the one thing I would say that would definitely bring down shelter costs is obviously just more supply on the market. But here's the problem. And this is another reason why I think home builders have been doing so well. Not only is it more expensive to build a home now because you have to think about construction loans, right? I was actually on a big call with the developer for a really, really cool project in Sarasota, Florida, which I'll keep you guys up to date on. Does anybody want to know how much he's spending for his money, or what his cost of capital is to build out phase 2 and phase 3 of this project? It's 10% money he's paying. He's paying 10% money. So think about that from a perspective of a developer, right? This is a very important thing that we didn't talk about. So if we want to bring valuations down, right, and have rent prices cool and have housing prices drop, you need to push supply on the market. Now, a lot of that supply is probably going to come from developers, new home builders, condominium developers. It's not going to come from resales. And the reason why I think it's not going to come from resales, ooh, look at that view of the Empire. That almost doesn't even look real. Look at that. Like this shot right here doesn't even look real. But anyway, the reason why I don't think it's going to come from resales is because 85% of Americans with a mortgage are paying 4% interest rates. So why would you give up your low payment? You're just going to sit tight. You have your shelter already. Nobody's really going to sell, even though you have a lot of equity. So it's going to come from new developers. The problem now is developers are taking on more and more risk because construction loans, you're probably going to pay around 10% money. So you're like, ooh, if I build 200 units and I have to take out a construction loan at 10%, I really, really have to be hoping and praying that I'm going to be able to move this product and move it fast. Because if I don't, and I have all these units sitting and they don't sell, well, that's going to burn a huge hole in my pocket if I can't pay back that loan extremely fast. So that's a good point. Yeah, I think there just needs to be a catalyst, right? Something that's going to spark a lot of supply coming on the market. Who knows? Here's another beautiful view of One Vanderbilt. Hey, Joseph Hardaway, thanks for joining us. Cynthia says it looks like Gotham. Hey, Irma's Addict, thanks for joining. Daryl says, Tom, would you rent an apartment in Queens or the Bronx? Maybe. I would definitely be open to it if it was a good opportunity. Now, you know what? Let me rephrase that. I don't think I would rent something in the Bronx. I think I'd probably, if the deal was good enough, I'd probably look at buying something there maybe, and then using it as an investment property to rent out. But look, a lot of people have been going to the outer boroughs for cheaper rent. The problem is everybody has the same idea, which is also pushing up the rent in the outer boroughs. Brooklyn is not inexpensive anymore, guys. Brooklyn is very expensive. Queens, especially parts of, Long Island City, are not inexpensive anymore. They're very, very expensive. I think we had a couple viewers in the chat. I think Dan Sang, I don't know if he's here tonight. We're forced out of the neighborhood because it's just so expensive. Rents are going super sky high. This is one of my favorite shots of the Chrysler Building. Looks absolutely fantastic tonight. Hey, Joan K, welcome. Fun Feeds, thanks for joining. Carol Brown says, reminds me of Gotham. Awesome shot. All right, let's head down towards 34th Street, 5th Avenue, which is the Empire State Building. I was going to take you guys to Central Park tonight, but I think the Empire has too good of a color scheme to pass up. And then maybe we'll go to Koreatown. Yeah, even Forest Hills is very expensive. But you know what? I really do like Forest Hills. Forest Hills, Queens is absolutely beautiful. If you want to visit there and you're not from Queens, if you're just visiting New York, Easiest way to get there is on the Long Island Railroad. Just get off at the Forest Hills Long Island Railroad stop. It's a very, very cool town. Very, very cool. Now, tomorrow, everybody, is another important day because we are going to get a piece of, I would say, consumer sentiment data out. We're going to get the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. Drops tomorrow. And I have a feeling, if I had to place a bet, I think you're going to see consumer sentiment increasing. And the reason why I say that is because I've just been observing, like many of you. Okay, hold that thought. Look at this. I mean, is that not the coolest shot of the Empire State Building you've seen in your life? That is unreal. I think the clouds make it 10 times better. Do you guys agree? Hey, someone says, Walks on Wall Street, what do you think about the new executive order about outward bound FDI from the US to China? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't even think I've heard about that. Outward bound FDI. Tell us about it in the chat. I'm curious. I'm very curious. I'm assuming maybe no good news. I don't know. I haven't heard about it. Yeah, Joe's Blue Man Group. I think the Blue Man Group performs in Soho. I never understood this building. It's kind of ugly. It almost looks like the Verizon building in Lower Manhattan. It's Walks on Wall Street. Restrictions on investment firms investing in Chinese companies that do specifics like quantum computing, AI, and semiconductors. Oh yeah. I actually think companies like NVIDIA and AMD are forbidden from selling their semiconductors or their chips to China. I think that's actually a good play by the Biden administration. And I usually don't agree with anything that Joe Biden does, but I think I think it is a national security threat. Another thing that I agree with is the CHIPS Act, because if there's one thing that the virus taught all of us, it's that you cannot rely on China to be the workshop of the world anymore. If they decide to shut down, that totally screws everybody. And I was in the thick of this during the virus because I was in tech sales. I was an enterprise sales director, so I ran the entire Northeast for a very, very big managed service provider. And there was a huge semiconductor shortage, and the prices were just absolutely ridiculous on our customers. 20% increases, 25% increases, all while the demand for these specific products were going through the roof, right? You want to talk about routers, right? Like Palo Alto routers, Cradle Point routers. You know, you're talking like sometimes $2,000 for a piece of equipment. And there was severe shortages of them. So I think making the investment now into building these chip fabricators in the United States, stateside, and in Mexico and Canada, by the way, reshoring our supply chain is the right thing to do. And I think it needed to be done 5 years ago. I think it needed to be done 10 years ago. But it's good news that it's being done. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to flip a switch and all is going to be well. It's going to take significant amount of time for these factories to, number one, be built and then get ready for 100% production capacity. But look, to your point, if you think about what's going to drive the economy over the next 5 to 10 years, like what is going to be the drivers? It's going to be cloud computing, it's going to be AI, and machine learning with EVs, electric vehicles. And you're going to need semiconductors. And if you have all of that intellectual capital, all of that IP in China, well, that is a massive issue. It needs to be stateside, it needs to be in the US, and those jobs need to be here too. Those are very, very lucrative jobs. So I agree. I think it's a good thing. Okay, we're headed towards Koreatown. Walking down 31st Street. Oh, is that right? NBA Elias's blue color on the Empire State Building tonight celebrates WABC's 75th anniversary. Very cool. Joel PM, what's up? Yeah, Joe says Ohio is going to have a big semiconductor plant. I got to buy a bottle of water. Maybe we'll do that over here. Speaking of Five Guys, we were talking about it earlier in the stream. Ooh, this is an interesting comment. Let me read this. So Zabatanis says, Tom, the Fabs situation, just lost your comment, will not work out the way people are imagining. The jobs are specialized, but the working conditions and pay are not what the average American educated worker is expecting. Well, I mean, even if these are, I think the what is it, the average salary according to Intel is going to be over $80,000 a year. But let's say some of these factory jobs are $25 an hour. Let's even say if they're $20 an hour. In some rural places in Ohio, those jobs are definitely going to get filled for sure. I don't know, maybe you're right. Now, I believe one of the highest paying jobs in that sector is actually the designers of those chips. The designers, I mean, those jobs could be, 350,000 plus RSUs. If like you're an NVIDIA designer, look at that. This is one of my favorite shots of the Empire State Building, right on the corner of 5th Avenue and 32nd Street. Yes, Sunshine After Rain is like find the $1 water guy. He's usually standing right at the entrance of Penn Station, which is actually now on pause. Well, that's not true. The new Penn Station is not on pause. It's the commercial real estate, the office above. Vornado is working on that project. Yeah, Zabatanis' designing is what's done mostly in the US, but the manufacturing is mainly what's done outside. Absolutely, for sure. Just because it's cheaper, right? It makes sense. But I don't think we could afford to do that anymore for, reasons that we talked about. But I think you're right on the money. You're 100% right. All right, we will walk through Koreatown. I've been seeing tons of those guys on the mopeds. Oh, I gotta tell you guys this. Unfortunately, this new development that's going up right here is gonna block the amazing view from Madison Square Park of the Empire State Building, unfortunately. Maybe if we have time, we'll walk down there and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But if you've ever sat inside Madison Square Park, right where the what's it called? Why am I blanking on the name of that place? Shake Shack. Right where the Shake Shack is, you have a gorgeous view of the Empire State Building. That building, unfortunately, is going to block that view. I guess you can't have the view forever, now that New York City is being developed like crazy. So we are now in Koreatown. Not as busy as I would have expected, actually. I would have expected Koreatown to be a little bit more busy tonight. It seemed like Midtown 42nd Street was the busiest. Oh, look at this, studio for rent. Let's see if anybody could look up what the price of the studio is. If I had to guess, $3,000. That's what I would guess. I'd say $3,000. Oh, sorry about that.
Am I right?
I'd guess $3,000.
I have no idea.
This place behind me is actually very good. I'll give this place a shout out. If you're ever in Koreatown and you're looking for a good place to get lunch, this place is fantastic. It's closed now, but this place is awesome. They have all prepared food. Look at that. So they make all Korean traditional dishes right here. And you just grab it off the shelf and you pay for it. It's fantastic. And it's very cheap too. It's like $10 a plate. And you can get all types of stuff. Highly recommend that place. I'm surprised I've never talked about it before on the channel. Now this is Gray Street. Gray Street's also fantastic. I know, Teresa, that's one thing that's a problem about Koreatown, is there's so much garbage because there's so many restaurants. And the city doesn't have any alleyways, so all the garbage piles up on the street, like this one. It's actually usually a lot worse, if you could imagine that. But Koreatown's still one of my favorite places to go in the city. Western Mass Dave says $10 is reasonable. It's very reasonable. And it's not, it's authentic Korean food. It's very good. All right, let's get back on the sidewalk so you can see some of the restaurants and the outdoor dining facilities. This one's actually very nice. They keep this one very clean. It looks brand new. Looks pretty cool. Let's check some of the prices. Not too bad, like $25, $22 a plate. It's actually not too bad. It's about 25% less than Beckjung. About 25% less. This is H Mart. I haven't been there in a long, long time. But that was cool. I was expecting Koreatown to be a little bit more busy though. For a Thursday night, it's usually kind of crowded. But it is getting late because we have started late. Look at this Shiba Inu, the Doge. Love those dogs. Now this is the corner of West 32nd Street and Broadway. This has another really nice view of the Empire. Look at that. Not bad. You know what we may do since we're here? We'll try our luck at the internet in the brand new Penn Station. Now usually the internet is non-existent there. We might as well try. We're coming up on the end of the stream anyway. So there's two specific places, right? You have the old Penn Station and then you have the brand new Moynihan Train Hall. I'll try to take you guys underground, assuming the internet holds up. But I think they did a good job. Now, I've been coming into the city through Penn Station since I was a kid, and not a good experience. Very low ceilings, very dark, very disgusting, but that is all changed. The ceiling heights are raised significantly. There's actually some natural sunlight down there, which, if you could believe that, it is possible. And coming in Q1 of 2024, TD, coming in Q1 of 2024, we're actually going to have a lot of restaurants and shops down there too. One last look at the Empire. Yeah, we probably should check the battery level. Let's see that. I think we're good. Hey, Madison 23, thank you for joining us. Sal is here. What's up, Sal? JM, good to see you. Here's some more mounds of garbage. This one is really egregious. So we're coming up on the brand new Penn 2 project. If you want to look it up for yourself, I would highly recommend it. It's very, very anticipated. It is called Penn 2. It stretches from 30th Street all the way to 34th Street. It's going to sport a brand new entrance to the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, and Amtrak. They already did a huge renovation on one Penn, which came out really nice. Now there is a small caveat here. Oh, and I'm so glad I took you guys this way. This building, you can't really see it. It's all under scaffolding. This was total demo. I forgot to tell you guys that. So this is totally demolished. Now it's gonna look so awkward when we cross the street, when we're standing right outside Madison Square Garden. I'm gonna turn the camera around towards the Empire State Building, and you guys are gonna be so surprised because this is about like a half a block of buildings that they completely demolished. So it looks very weird. In the middle of Midtown, having about a half a block just completely leveled. I don't know what they're building, but I'm very excited about it. And all but temporarily, it opens up really, really nice views of all of Midtown Manhattan. But you could start to see the difference, right? You could sort of start to see it. You have these really cool, LCD screen lights right here. You have some, I guess, just decorations. It looks a little bit nicer. And again, this is called the Penn 2 project. It's put on by Vornado Realty Trust. They are publicly traded. Steve Roth is the CEO. Now, the problem is this. All of this office space here is actually on pause. Because as we talked about at the very beginning of the live stream, the number one location in Manhattan that has the highest office vacancy is Lower Manhattan. Number 2 is right here where we're standing. So they've put this on pause temporarily, but they're still going to continue the brand new entrance. So you'll sort of see what it's supposed to look like coming the fall of 2023. So I guess that's in another couple months here. So this is going to be an entrance that takes you down into Penn Station. But look at this. Now they have this big Verizon sign, so it may be hard to see. But look at that. You have unobstructed views of the Empire State Building now. And you can even see One Vanderbilt right here. Now the Verizon sign is so bright that we kind of can't see it, so I'm going to try to get as far away from it as possible. But look at that. All of this is completely demoed. So they've done a total demolition all the way to the corner there. It opens up views for One Vanderbilt and the Empire State Building. Now, I'm not sure what they're building, but I'm super excited about it. They have the potential to really transform the entire neighborhood here. But now for the fun part. We are going to try our luck into the New York City underground. We'll see if the internet holds up. I think it would be cool for people to see what the new Penn Station looks like from underground. Hopefully it'll hold up. You have to come here and check it out for yourself while it's under construction, because I'm not used to seeing the Empire State Building from here at all. This used to be a huge building. I forget what it used to be. It may have been a hotel. I think it used to be that old, iconic hotel. Looks like they tore it down. Okay, here we are. Let's make a left. And here is the brand new entrance to the Long Island Railroad. You can get the 123 ACE New Jersey Transit and Long Island Railroad. We'll give it a try. We'll see if we can see how the internet holds up. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think they did a good job at Penn Station? I mean, this looks completely different from the station that I used to go through as a kid. Notice the ceiling heights. They've totally blown out the ceilings and made everything super bright, super airy, very clean, very new. Now they even raised the ceiling heights here. If you want to know what this used to look like, right here is what the ceiling heights used to be, if you can believe that. Now it is really bright. I think they did a pretty good job. Let's see how far we could walk down the corridor. We'll see if we can go all the way under. So all brand new lighting. You have Dos Toros, I think, is coming as well. You can have your Walgreens. Now, for those original New Yorkers, does anybody remember when this used to be a Taco Bell and a KFC? This used to be a Kentucky Fried Chicken here. And there used to be also a very, very, very dark Jamaican place. And the ceiling heights were so low, it was crazy. And they've done a really, really good job. The lighting is nice. Lots of good direction. That's how low the ceilings used to be, right here. So imagine that throughout the entire place. It was like a bunker. It was horrible.
Last home at 1052 Long Beach train with a transfer opportunity in Jamaica.
Hey, Long Beach, that's me.
15 last call travel.
And it looks like the internet is holding up, which is not bad. JM says you get to sleep in tonight, obviously. Really? Why? I gotta be up early. I gotta be Broome Street. 8 o'clock in the morning. Let's see if we can go up here.
Attention please. Boarding on track 12 east is the New Jersey Transit 10:56 p.m. Morristown line en route to Dover with intermediate stops. Passengers should proceed to track 12 east. Attention please. Boarding on track 12 east is the New Jersey Transit 10:56 p.m. Morristown line en route to Dover with intermediate stops. Passengers should proceed to track 12 east. Attention please. Now loading on track 12 east is the New Jersey Transit 10:56 p.m. Morristown line en route to Dover, making stops at Secaucus, Newark Broad Street.
Right, I think we will be good.
South Orange, Maplewood, Milburn, Short Hills, Summit, Chatham, Madison, Convent, Morristown, Morris Plains, and Wendell, terminating at Dover.
Well, I think we made it past all the buffering. We are back out to the fresh air. This is the Moynihan train hall. This is still a post office, by the way. Beautiful columns here. Let's see if we could also try our luck inside the Moynihan train hall. We'll see. But if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. I think we covered a lot. We covered the CPI numbers today. We also covered a lot of New York City real estate data. I think we got a lot done. It was very productive. So we might as well try our luck going inside the post office to end the stream. Now, if we're lucky, tomorrow we should be live from Dumbo, Brooklyn, because my day is going to be very long and then it'll end up in Dumbo. So we'll probably do a little bit of a walking tour around Dumbo on a Friday night and walk over the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan and try to go to the Lower East Side. There'll be a lot of talk tomorrow about consumer sentiment. That's a big thing on the chopping block for tomorrow. The University of Michigan consumer sentiment data is going to drop. So we will cover that. You know what, there's too many people on the stairs. I think we'll kill it here because I got to go to the train anyway, which is right to our left. So thank you everybody for coming out. Hope you had a fantastic Thursday. It's already the end of the week. Friday tomorrow, we made it. So I want to wish you all a very early weekend. So Michael, thank you so much. Sabrina Fair, Joan K, LE317, thank you so much for joining. Latha, the one and only. Austin City Limits, Cindy Foley, Wendy England. There's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you want to connect with us offline, click the links in the description to sign up for our free financial newsletter, and I'll see all of you right back here live from New York City at 8:30 p.m. See you in Dumbo, Brooklyn.